All right. So this is like, I've tried to make this video a couple times and I keep messing up. So I'm going to start it out different. Um, Pay attention to what's on this chart under the 1 mile per hour. These are 0.08, 0.06, 0.04, and it's not up until 600 yards where we actually get a 0.1. The mistake I keep making is I'm referring to, like, let's say certain mile an hour wind and it's 0.24. I accidentally refer to that as 2.4, and that is incorrect. So I'm having to remake this again. Anyway, so we are referring to our wind column here. So what this is 1 mile per hour wind at these given ranges. So 100 yards with a 1 mile per hour wind is 0.01 mil hold. At 500 yards with a 1 mile an hour wind, we're going to have a 0.08 mil hold. So very simple, very easy. If we have a 2 mile an hour wind, let's say 500 yards, we're going to stick at 500 yards for a while. A 2 mile an hour wind, we're just going to multiply that by 2. And this is where knowing your multiplication tables works really well. So we're going to have 0.08. So 8 times 2, 816, which gives us 0.16. So at 500 yards with a 2 mile an hour wind, we're going to have 0.16 mil hold. 3 mile an hour wind, 8, 16, 24, so 0.24. If it's a 6 mile an hour wind, then we do, the way I do this in my head is I actually multiply up halfway and then times it by 2. So 8, 16, 24, 24 plus 24 is 48. And so I do that very quickly in my head. So I know I have 0.48 mil hold for 500 yards with a 6 mile an hour wind. So the other thing, and it's the same way all the way across. So very quick, very easy. Now let's refer to our quick wind, because I just made kind of a reference. So at 500 yards with a 6 mile an hour wind, remember our quick wind is 6.3. I said that was, let's see, 8, 16, 24. 24 and 24 is 48.48. So we're going to hold 0.48. Well, we can't hold 0.48. I mean, we can hold it, we can't dial it. That 0.8 is going to throw us off. So we're going to round that up to 0.5. And the reason I say that is because 0.5 for 500 yards is what our quick wind is going to be with a 6 mile an hour wind. So I can't tell the difference between, let's say, I can't tell the difference between 6.3 and 6, or even probably 6.3 and 7. So just for easy math, I'm going to round that up to, or just round it down to 6, which is going to explain the error at 500 yards, why it's 0.48 instead of 6, or I'm sorry, instead of 5. So anyway, quick wind is, we're going to take a certain wind number in feet per second. So in this case, it's going to be 6.3. What that does is that gives me at 100 yards with a 6 mile an hour wind, it's going to give me that range gives me my wind hold. It's by 1/100th. So I know at 6 mile an hour wind at 100 yards is 0.1 mil. At 200 yards with a 6 mile an hour wind is 0.2. At 300.3, 400.4, 500.5, 600.6. And we can also confirm that by, if we take our 0.1 and then times 6 is 0.6. It would actually be 0.63, but again, we can't hold 0.03. So that is our wind column, and that is our quick wind. Now, these are specifically highlighted at 600 yards in our quick wind with yellow, because that works all the way out until 600 yards. At 700 yards, we do have to add 0.1 because it's off just a little bit. So I think at 7 and 8, we have to add an additional 0.1 mil. At 9 and 1,000, we add 0.2. I think at 11, it's 0.3, and then it starts kind of going off where I don't really memorize it. So our quick wind isn't necessarily absolute all the way out, but what we can do is say, okay, I'm at 500 yards, and I'm pretty close to, I'm gonna call it a 6 mile an hour wind. I don't have to think about it. I just hold 0.4, and we're good. Let's see, where else are we at? So that's our 1 mile an hour wind. Obviously, if we're going to do 10 mile an hour, we move our decimal over one place. That gives us 0.8. So all of these are 1 and 10 mile an hour. If we're going to do 20 miles an hour, so we just move it over. That gives us 0.8, and then we double it. So 16, which gives us 1.6 mil. So at 500 yards with a 20 mile an hour wind, I've got a 1.6 mil hold. So it works extremely well and extremely fast, just that quick. It gets a little bit more tricky in the 15 mile an hour, but how I do 15 mile an hour is I take, I make this 10 mile an hour wind by taking our decimal, move it over, and then I divide that in half. So 0.8, half of 0.8 is 0.4. So then I add to that half number just back to our whole number. So 8, or I should say 0.8 plus 0.4 is 1.2. I hope I got that right. Yeah. So for a 15 mile an hour wind, we're going to hold 1.2 mils at 500 yards. So that works very easy. So with just some basic math, this has given us 1, 10, 20, and then a little bit of division, or however you think about it, we can get our 15. And then let's say we have 12, then we're going to take our decimal, move it over, and then we just divide that by, essentially by 4, which gives us 2, right? So 2, 4, 6, 8. So then we take our whole number for 10, which was 0.8, and then we add our 0.02 to that, which is going to give us 1 full mil. So that's how we get some of those numbers. So I hope all that makes sense. I think I did a better job on this video now explaining that. So hopefully I didn't make any mistakes. Next, in the next video, I'm going to go over our cosine. So we'll get into that in a moment. Thank you.